Hey, hey! This week we're going to have a look at the book Skulduggery Pleasant, written by Derek Landy. Now this is an action, adventure, magical book, I suppose you would call it. Fantastic, a huge series. This is the first book. So first of all, let's take a look at the plot of Skulduggery Pleasant. Then we'll come back and I'll let you know what I thought. Skulduggery Pleasant, the dead famous bestseller. This book is about a girl called Stephanie. And the book begins, as often these books do, with the death of somebody. And in this case, it's the death of her uncle Gordon. Now, Gordon was a bit of a black sheep of the family, and he was known to meddle in occult things that were a little bit strange to his brothers. So Stephanie with her family goes off to the funeral, and there she meets a rather intriguing fellow named Skulduggery Pleasant, who turns out to be a friend of her uncle Gordon. Everything goes as well as a funeral can do, and later Stephanie and her parents are called to the will reading of her uncle, accompanied by Stephanie's aunt and uncle and cousins who are hoping to get something good out of the will. Skulduggery Pleasant, the mysterious figure from the funeral, is also invited, and at the will reading it turns out that Gordon, Stephanie's uncle, has left Stephanie with basically all of his fortune and, more importantly, his house. Now this is a big surprise to Stephanie and to the rest of her family, especially her aunt and uncle, who wanted to get their greedy hands on as much as possible. So Stephanie goes to have a look over the house and actually gets stuck there by some incredibly bad weather. And during the night she is attacked by people that are looking for something in her uncle's house, and she is saved by the same fella, Skulduggery Pleasant, who has popped up before. Now it turns out that Skulduggery isn't just an ordinary man. Oh no, he's a detective, and again, not just an ordinary detective. You see, he's actually a skeleton. Well, a living skeleton. Well, that's a bit of an oxymoron there, but he is a skeleton. His body is wasted away in some terrible events, and he is a magical detective. And soon Stephanie, and not only is he a magical detective, he can conjure fire and wind and water, and he can control them with his magic. Now, this fascinates Stephanie, and soon she gets attached to this skeletal detective and is introduced to a hidden world of magic and monsters, of great wars and great heroism. And the book takes us from there as Stephanie accompanies Skulduggery Pleasant on his journey to basically try and save the world from another great war. So, Skulduggery Pleasant by Derek Landy. I really like this book. I'll just say that off the top. It is a sort of adventure book. Well, it's definitely an adventure book full of magic and this sort of underworld of unseen magic that you often find in these books, where you have the sort of real world and then a child discovers this extra world. And in this case, Stephanie, the main character who later becomes known as Valkyrie Kane, I believe, she discovers this extra world of magic, and it is a fantastic world that you're introduced to. First through Skulduggery Pleasant, who is the other main character in this story, who is the skeletal detective who in the past, in one of the great wars that had happened, the magical wars, had lost his physical body except for his skeleton. And she is introduced to this magical world through Skulduggery Pleasant. And you get really nice, good world building going on as you're introduced to different elements of the magic and the history behind what's already happened in this sort of secretive world of magic and monsters. So if we have a look at the characters, Stephanie's a fairly stock character, I would say. She's a very practical girl. She feels uncomfortable in the real world. She wants more. She wants adventure. She wants to get out of her town. And Skulduggery Pleasant allows her to do that. She becomes a very practical one, and in the general sense, she becomes a very special character in the story. She's good. Skulduggery Pleasant, the other main character, is also very good, and the relationship they have between each other is very well written. You know, this sort of mentor-mentee, sort of petulant child against a sort of world experienced detective, I suppose you would say. But you have some great moments of humour between them, of teaching, and of emotion as well. There develops a really good connection between them. The setting's also very good. Obviously it's set in the real world. It's set in the modern day, but with this extra hidden magical layer to it, with wizards and tyrants and monsters and trolls and things like that, and that's very well built in. You sort of get access to this alternate history, which becomes very interesting. So the setting's very good. You get taken to different places, mainly within the United Kingdom and Ireland, and yeah, it's a good setting. I mean, it's not going to blow your mind in any way, shape or form. It's pretty standard sort of magical setting, hidden setting, but it's very well introduced. As a whole, the story is, I would say, very enjoyable. You know, it's a really good action, adventure, fantasy story that you're taking along with by Derek Landy and the other characters, and you do end up caring about them. And it's a great fun story, to be honest. So if you want stories full of monsters and trolls and wizards and people wielding broadswords and fighting not just with weapons but with also magic, then I think you're really going to enjoy this book. The story's well constructed and it keeps you interested right till the end. It is the first book in a whole series. I think there's many of these now, up to 7, maybe more. But this, if you're just going to read the first book, I think this is a really good book to read, because it's not like some beginnings of series where it's just basically the prologue. It is actually a self-contained story, and you feel like you've been through the story when you finish. So a very good book. I'm not sure I'll go on to read the other ones. Maybe I'm interested, if that's any consolation. So if you're looking for a magical adventure book, then make Skulduggery Pleasant your next page. So until next time, keep reading and keep having fun.